Hello, welcome to the BSI Comics Podcast.
Vodcast.
Yeah, we're gonna. That's real though. That's not. You genuinely annoy me with that. But anyway, so this show's been around for about 5 years now, something like that. Oh, in some form, it's it's a podcast, and it got rebooted like 4 times before it became a video podcast. And I know you want to do it. Okay.
I'm good.
It started off as an extension of the graphic panels. We have a book club at BSI called Graphic Panels. And the idea is well, if you can't come to our book club, you can listen to the podcast where we talk about the books that we talk about on the book club.
Right.
And eventually, since we're all adults, it got kind of hard to keep it steady and everybody, make sure everybody read the books. So we figured, okay, well let's do like news and rumors. Horrible idea. I'm not saying that every episode was bad. Obviously it wasn't, but
at some point you feel like you're regurgitating stuff that's all across the web,
And also, particularly for a comic shop where we have to sell you these products, there's times when the news isn't good and it's depressing and we don't want to talk about it and we can't completely be honest. Like, we try to be as honest as possible, but if there's a book coming out that I think sounds horrible, I can't tell you, hey, that sucks, because eventually somebody might want to buy it.
Right.
So it just gets hard to do the news and rumors thing. And some weeks, like we say it on here, some weeks there's nothing to talk about. So we're taking a step back.
And inventing things to talk about.
Yeah. Well, somewhat. I want it to be less news and rumors. We've discussed this. We want it to be more of a discussion thing, which, some of that's because, we're getting used to the video thing. Like, it's weird talking to a camera as if there's a person there, because there's not.
And also partly because people always come in the shop and they ask me, what's good? What are you reading? What do you like? So I think it's important that we get to talk about stuff that we like, because we generally get to read more than the average person just because we have it available to us.
Sometimes, and some weeks not as much.
Right.
But so we're going to shift things around a little bit, and we will obviously occasionally talk about something in the news or something rumors, but we're going to try and talk more about things that we actually want to talk about as opposed to just like, oh, here's a list of things that we're coming out.
It's a lot easier to talk about things when you're excited about them,
Right.
So.
Or if not excited, at least have something to say about it. So the first thing that we're going to do is from now on, we're going to start doing our recommendations to begin with. Did you have anything to recommend this week?
The only real thing I have to recommend this week is the Captain America Steve Rogers series that's been going on. The first volume of that came out.
Okay, yeah.
And that is a solid read if you can get past the Captain America as a Nazi and a bad guy.
I hate to mention this because we just said we're getting away with rumor stuff, but there is a rumor that is going to be the focus of the next Marvel event in the coming year.
Yeah. And,
which makes sense.
As much as people have been complaining about, Marvel and whatever, they tend to have the long game in mind when they start writing a story. I mean, this was never meant to be a quick hitter, 6-issue,
right.
Storyline. Like, this is a big, epic story, which is pretty cool, Mm-hmm. Kind of like Hickman's Avengers run.
Right.
It was a really, really long, drawn-out story. And, looking
As
back...
every Hickman story.
Right, but looking back on it, it's pretty cool that you can take a story and take someone on a journey for, that period of time.
Right. For me, I'm kind of surprised at what my recommendation is. And I think you know what it is, but there was a new issue of Nova that came out this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And, Marvel had been doing all right, we know you missed the old heroes. We know you missed the ones that you grew up with. So let's compromise. There's just going to be 2 versions of every hero.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of that, flat out. Now, I have said, and I stand by it, that Champions is a good book. And Champions comes as close as you'll get to proving to me that there is value in having that. Because it's a solid book, which is all you really need to prove anything to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would say, and not to be completely off subject, but whenever people talk about like, oh, the fans just want to hate the DC movies. Oh, the fans just want to hate the new Ghostbusters. If you put out a good movie, they'll shut up. You know, it's the same thing with comics. So I hadn't really been into Nova in a long time because I grew up with Rich Rider. Literally, like from the time I was 13, was reading comics where Rich Rider was Nova.
Right.
And when they were just like, let's just forget that this guy existed and we're just going to have a new kid. And at the time, it didn't feel like a diversity thing because they hadn't really been doing... I mean, they had Miles Morales, but Miles Morales sort of made sense. Like, at the time, it felt more natural. Now, when they do it, like, not telling anyone not to read the book, not saying it's not good, but the Invincible Iron Man, Ironheart thing,
right,
that's artificial. They came up with that because they were like, let's have a black girl be Iron Man, which is fine if you want to do that. But character like Nova, I felt like they weren't trying to do anything. Like they were just like, this seems like an interesting idea, let's go with it. But I tried reading the original issues, which I believe Jeff Loeb was doing at the like when it first started. I don't think he did much. I didn't really get into it, but I did think like it was a good starter book for kids. I know this is a long-winded way of getting around to the new series, but whatever. But so this new series, they're like, Rich Rider's back. All right, let's see how this goes. I think it's Ramon Perez is the artist / co-writer. I'm probably getting that wrong. I apologize. I meant to bring the book with me, and I forgot it. But solid. Okay. Obviously, since I'm recommending it, solid.
It's one of the few things I didn't read this week, so
okay. The art's really good. I hope the artist / writer sticks. He's not. There's a main writer, and then the artist is apparently helping. I don't know, with plotting or something like that.
So what's the dynamic between the?
Okay, well, so we haven't gotten to that point yet. I will start off by saying that unlike some of the other books that we've discussed recently, it doesn't feel like half an issue. It feels like you get a solid issue, but it is a setup issue, which is fine. Like, tell your story, take your time, just don't draw it out. And it doesn't feel like doing that. So, most of the issue is dedicated to, I can never remember what Sam's last name is, but most of the issue is dedicated to him. And you get little snippets of what's going on with Rich and somewhat of an idea of maybe him coming back wasn't such a good thing. I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Where was he?
He died in that, was it no, not Thanos Quest. Whatever the thing was where there was the Cancerverse, I don't remember. That might have been Thanos Quest, actually. I'm not sure. But he died in, like, the Cancerverse. And Peter Quill and Drax managed to get out at the last second. Bendis told the story in Guardians.
Okay.
It was, you don't need to go and read that, frankly. It was terrible. Didn't make any sense. They should have left it alone. Anyway, this is honesty, folks. But yeah, so they'll probably get into that a little bit as the series goes on. But in one way or another, really solid. I feel like they're still going to focus more on Sam, which is good. But they might also sort of take turns. Obviously, the end of the issue focuses on something that's going on with Rich. So they'll obviously go back into that. Nice little tidbit. This isn't really a spoiler. There's I won't say who it is, but there's a little Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but almost a reference to what's going on in the next movie.
Okay.
Which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Sweet.
But yeah, Nova #1. I was really impressed. I bought that and Unworthy Thor, which I'm really happy with.
Unworthy Thor is awesome too. Yeah.
Yeah. So good stuff.
Solid stuff all around this week. Unworthy Thor, a Clone Conspiracy. They did the big reveal of Jackal. Spoiler. Go check that out.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that. Okay, I'll have to ask you about that later.
It's pretty awesome.
I also bought Superman this week because, man, I gotta say, and this is a good thing for us to talk about a little bit. I know you're not a big Superman fan,
right?
And growing up, I wasn't really either. And it wasn't anything against Superman. I've always said the main issue with Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman that people don't really get is they're all very two-dimensional characters because of the era they were created in.
Yeah.
The reason that Batman gets away with more, even though, again, Batman is just as two-dimensional as they are, is that Batman has an incredibly rich supporting cast. Nightwing, way better character than Batman. Far better. Far more rounded, far more interesting. He feels like a real person.
Right.
Bruce Wayne isn't. He's very simplistic. But because Bruce Wayne has Alfred and has Barbara Gordon and Jim Gordon, even Jim Gordon's more of a well-rounded character than Bruce Wayne is. But anyway, it's me. This is how I talk. But anyway, I've never been that big a Superman fan.
Okay.
But I always felt like the thing that New 52 really screwed up was Superman. They got it wrong from day one, and they really just wrecked that character. And they're correcting it now, and they're correcting it in a big way. And surprisingly, even though I am a fan of Dan Jurgens, and I absolutely think you should check out what Dan Jurgens is doing on Action Comics, I feel like Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason are just absolutely killing it on Superman right now and making a solid case. And it feels updated because you got, Superman's got a kid now. But it feels like the Clark Kent that we know and love, the one that or at the very least, I related to in the Bruce Timm universe.
Right.
So this issue starts a new arc. Admittedly, it's not as strong as some of the previous arcs, but it's only the first issue, so whatever. Frankenstein's a guest star, so you can check that out. I do recommend. I want to say it's issue 7 is the issue where they're at the fair.
Oh, the family?
Yeah, it's either 7 or 8. It might be 8, but I think it's 7. But that's a solid intro issue to sort of give you an idea of, like just a well-rounded idea of what's going on in the Superman universe. And I mentioned before the artist on that issue, Jorge Jimenez, is like my favorite new artist. Going to be on Super Sons this year. So
it's good stuff.
Yeah. So I guess we're kind of done with recommendations. I don't know if we have anything else.
I think that was about it.
Okay. So next thing.
There's been an influx of trailers.
Yes. We're going to talk about a few of them to various different degrees. We'll probably end with the two best ones.
Arguably.
I think easily. But to start with, so we're recording kind of late because the Fast and Furious people, I guess Vin Diesel is kind of their leader at this point, like literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
They decided to do like a huge trailer, or it's a teaser. But either way,
they took over Times Square. I mean, yeah. It's
it's ridiculous.
Some
like
TRL stuff.
Millions of dollars, easily. Like every giant screen in Times Square was playing this.
Right.
They took over Times Square, like you just said. So, so we kind of like waited it out because we were pretty close to the time. And I'm a huge Fast and the Furious fan. The original co-host of the BSI Comics Podcast, back when it was graphic panels, was Casey Moore. Mm-hmm. I was joking the other day that the only date I ever go on with a man is Casey and I have a standing date whenever Fast and the Furious movie comes out. We eat each other's popcorn, and that sounded way grosser than I meant. Anyway, what's up, Casey? I don't think he watches. But, so, like, I was excited for this, everyone knows I'm a huge fan of The Rock. Baywatch trailer aside, we'll kind of ignore that one. Maybe we'll talk about it. But I gotta say, I wasn't that impressed with this.
Really?
Yeah, like, it just, like, the problem is like...
What else do you want in a Fast and the Furious trailer?
Here's the thing. Fast 5 is where Fast and the Furious became as good as it is. It's honestly, it's still the best one out.
They said, all right, we get it.
Yeah, they realized, like, this is a bad series. Let's make this as awesomely bad as we can. And they did. But the problem is, like, with 6 and 7, they had to keep upping the ante. And with 7, one of their stars literally died. Both literally in the movie and literally in real life.
He didn't really die in the movie. He just took a different off-ramp.
He flew away. He drove into heaven like he was at the end of Grease.
That was
fair point.
Figuratively.
He was even like in a white car.
Yeah,
it was literally like the end of Grease.
It was ridiculous. Yes.
We need to recut that so that. By the way, we're gonna have a recut trailer that we'll be debuting in a little bit. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. We need to recut that to have the soundtrack to Grease on top of him like flying off. But anyway, I mean, it's not that it was bad. It was just like I feel like they burnt out my senses. It's interesting. I mean, Dominic Toretto turns on the family, and
he takes
Charlize Theron.
Deathstroke's mask.
I thought you were going with the Charlize Theron.
No.
He took her too, apparently.
Yeah.
It's
Everyone's
interesting.
hunting him down.
And this is the weird part that I'm not as excited about this. So now the team is going to team up with Shaw. I can't think of his first name.
Jason Statham.
They're going to team up with the State, which seems like my nipples should be on fire right now. I feel like I should be really excited about this, and I'm just kind of like, I almost feel like they're going to do one of those things like, I know Suicide Squad made it seem like the Joker was going to be in a lot of the movie, and he was in like 2 minutes. I feel like that's going to happen. Like something's going to happen. Dominic Toretto's going to shoot the State in the forehead like halfway into the movie. I don't know. I feel like I should be more excited.
The Rock had the best line in the trailer, though, by far.
He did, and he usually does.
Where he said he was going to beat him like a Cherokee drum.
Yeah, we both kind of laughed a lot at it. It's pretty funny.
He had the best and the worst line in the trailer.
What was the worst?
When there's a submarine. Spoiler.
I thought that was funny.
Well, the submarine came out the water, and he said, "I think we're going to need a bigger truck."
I thought that was good,
right.
And especially because it's sort of self-referential. Because I like that they still realize that they're still too far over the top, but.
It's over the top.
The reason I laughed
There's
is
a
because,
Lamborghini on ice.
Right. Well, the reason I laughed is because, like I said, they have to keep upping the ante.
They had the tank from G.I. Joe.
They had, what was it, a hiss?
The hiss tank.
They did have a hiss, that's true. It's really over the I'm starting to like it more as we're talking, actually. But the fact that, like, they were like, okay, well, we've had a tank, we've had them, like, jumping through the Mumbai, or not Mumbai,
we threw cars out of the plane.
Yeah, we did all this stuff. Like, what do we do now? Let's just get a submarine. So I feel like The Rock was just making light of the fact that, like, all right, now we got a submarine?
The only thing that can make it better is if it crossed over with G.I. Joe and or Transformers. Which it borderline did.
I feel like you just broke my brain.
Yeah.
Like, now, I might literally cry on this show because I've realized it'll never happen.
That would be...
But speaking of Transformers...
Incredible. Speaking of Transformers, yes.
It's funny, we have a local drink and draw. If you're not familiar with drink and draw, Google it. You might have one in your neighborhood. It's a good time, depending on the group that you're part of, you know. But we were talking to a local, a BSI regular who was really into the trailer for Transformers. And I feel like everyone else is kind of like, what?
I don't know if you know this, but I'm a pretty big Transformers fan. Yeah, there's some back there.
Never noticed.
I don't even know what's going on.
Well, let's be honest, and I've said this from the beginning. I've said it from the first movie, which I liked the first movie. I thought the first movie was pretty good. They're not really Transformers movies. At one point, they were interesting robots fighting humans movie.
Right.
You know, but they're not, Peter Cullen aside, there's nothing Transformers. When, yes, they do transform. Obviously, I'm not
somewhat.
Stupid.
Sometimes they're liquid and...
Yeah, so... funny enough, I ran across a review that I wrote when the second one came out. Apparently, I didn't hate the second one either when I saw it. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
I thought it was bad, but I thought... Anyway. And then the third one, I liked, but it was too long. And I was kind of done with it. And so the fourth movie, I was like, I'm not seeing that. And then Optimus Prime picked up a sword and rode Grimlock like a horse. And I was like, God damn it. Like, now I gotta see that. So they kind of got me. But with this trailer, good God, is it boring.
Yeah, nothing really happens. I mean...
Or it was boring.
Yeah, we fixed it. Soon to come.
It'll be on the BSI Facebook page.
Optimus Prime is floating in space, you know? I guess at the end of the last movie,
apparently.
He turned into Superman and took off into space. Mm-hmm. And I guess
which, to be fair, was a little bit of a reference to the original cartoon. He had like the jetpack in the first episode.
Yeah, but if he could fly the whole time, why?
I don't know. It was sort of just a typical Transformers trailer. At the end of the day, like I know now that they're saying like it's gonna connect to King Arthur and I don't know, Optimus Prime is Merlin or something. I don't know, but it's a stupid idea that in the right hands could work. And look, I'm all for stupid Michael Bay films. I told you the other day, I cried during Armageddon. I'm not ashamed to admit that. Her daddy died, okay? Die Hard freaking died, okay? And I cried. But it's just bad. It's just bad. There's nothing redeemable about it. And I like Mark Wahlberg too, but it's just...
Hopefully they have another trailer that comes out where he does something like epic, like, goes down on one knee and slams the sword.
I don't care. I'm done.
And then you'll have your moment where you're like, God damn it again.
Yeah.
But
no, I don't think so. I think it looks pretty bad. So, but with our new version, our new trailer, and we're not kidding. Please check out in the next day or two on BSI. It might actually be out before this airs, but we're gonna put it up. So check out our version of the trailer. Way better. Anyway,
in a more comic book related trailer, Spider-Man Homecoming trailer popped out.
We skipped over the Mummy, but that's okay. You should.
Okay,
Spider-Man.
Who knows what's happening in that movie too?
Yeah, that didn't look that good. It looked okay. Anyway, so Spider-Man Homecoming.
Spider-Man Homecoming, I keep going back and forth on this movie. Like, every time we talk, I'm like, am I excited? It looks good.
I don't think you can deny that it looks like a good trailer. I think Sony did the right thing by letting Marvel take over. I'm still kind of butthurt about it, and this is probably what we'll talk about for the most part for this trailer. So there was the whole thing with Zendaya, which, again, I'm a fan of Zendaya.
Right.
I think she's very talented. I don't know about her acting because she's only acting those like cheesy Disney shows,
right?
Which I'm normally a fan of, but the ones she's been in have been particularly bad. But beautiful girl, amazing singer, great voice. I'm not against her being in the movie or being Peter's love interest, but when they announced it, they haven't officially announced.
It still hasn't been announced or touched or anything.
But it's been out there for a long time now that she was going to be Mary Jane Watson, and they didn't deny it, which is my big thing. I feel like if she wasn't going to be Mary Jane Watson, they would deny it. Now, I have been Blake Petit, who does All New Showcase, who's been a long time part of the BSI community, shared with me a link where she did an interview with Entertainment Weekly. It was very brief, where they asked her about the Mary Jane thing, and she said she is not Mary Jane Watson. She plays a character named Michelle. But then she kind of winked at the camera. So, I mean, she's young. She might just be playing with the audience. She might be mad that people don't want her to be Mary Jane Watson. I don't know. I feel like that's a bad move at this point because coming out of Civil War, there was so much goodwill towards the new Spider-Man. Tom Holland killed it. He was arguably the best thing in that movie. And for them to then have this PR nightmare, at least in my opinion, where people are, and we don't need to be fighting over comic book movies, not the way people are fighting stupidly over everything else right now.
Right.
So I feel like it's a bad time to be doing that. And, James Gunn came out and said, well, a character isn't their skin color. And I was like, well, in a comic book, it kind of is. Like, a comic is a primarily visual medium. The first thing you're introduced is what the character looked like. Boba Fett's been a popular character for 30 years, and he sucked in the Star Wars movies. Separate subject, but it's true. He died like a punk ass. Anyway.
Until he came out.
He did?
Yeah, he
Man.
came
Oh! Okay, different subject. Anyway.
Phrasing.
Are we still doing that?
Yep.
So, yeah.
You just think they would have mentioned something in the trailer, like he would have, Hi Mary Jane or That Mary Jane or something like that.
I think they're still playing with it. And it bothers me. But again, I can't deny it's a great trailer. It feels like Spider-Man.
Tom Holland kills it as Spider-Man.
So two most interesting things about it. Number one is that regardless of who Zendaya is playing, she's apparently not the love interest in it. Liz Allen is, who they also made black, which I have less of a problem with because Liz Allen is... She's not a minor Spider-Man character. She was more important when the series first started, however many years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But I feel like she's such a less prominent character that characters like that, it just doesn't bother me as much. Like, leave Captain America, leave Spider-Man, Mary Jane, Spider-Man, Mary Jane. Everybody else I kind of feel like is somewhat fair game, The other interesting thing, and maybe you find this less interesting, is that it feels like they're going to be putting a little bit of the Miles Morales universe into this version of the character.
Okay.
Because there's a character from the Miles Morales Spider-Man comics named Gank, who is Miles Morales' best friend. He's an overweight Asian kid, and they don't say his name in the trailer, but there's an overweight Asian kid that's clearly...
You get that kind of vibe.
It's probably Gank. I assume that's Korean. I don't know. But,
or Gold Balls.
It's not going to be Gold Balls. Is Gold Balls Asian?
I hope it's Gold Balls. No, but a character isn't there.
Oh, that's true.
Anyway.
It could be Gold Balls.
We're hoping it's Gold Balls.
I'm kind of with you now. But it's interesting. I'm wondering how much they're going to put that into, like, is that the only thing? Did they just figure, let's throw an Asian kid in there?
But we have Tony Stark as that mentor, reprising that mentor role.
And he does suit up during the movie.
He's got his little Tony Stark lines,
Are they just going to Civil War every Marvel movie from now on? It's starting to feel like it.
But, he needs that figure. The suit looks awesome.
Why don't you tell him about your favorite moment?
They have the armpit webs.
Which I was like, that's interesting, but okay.
It's cool. It's a nice little homage. It looks good, man.
Michael Keaton as Vulture looks pretty awesome.
That's, again, you saw with the Green Goblin costume, it's kind of hard to pull off some of these villains without making them look hokey, Power Ranger-y.
I feel like they could have done a better job with the Green Goblin, but that was...
Yeah, that Vulture costume looks pretty badass.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a few people complain about it because it's not very much like the original Vulture costume, although it does have a little bit in common with the Vulturians. Yeah, deep cut, bitches.
It's pretty Vulture...
Old school comic fan.